I just wanted some clarification on tithing.
Being unable to forgive somebody who causes an offense
Does
towards
it really matter whether someone is Protestant or Catholic?
The genealogies are different from Matthew to Luke.
I was wondering what the Bible said in terms of what I should do.
This is Pastor's Perspective. We're here every Monday through Friday providing answers on a variety of topics, including the Bible, end times, other religions, and the family. Call right now with your question at 1-888-564-6173. That's 888-564-6173. You can also post your question at facebook.com/Pastor's Perspective. And now here again is your host, Brian Perez.
Welcome once again to the Pastor's Perspective program. Thank you so much for listening and for watching us on YouTube and facebook.com/Pastor's Perspective. Not going to take any phone calls, at least not right away. We'll see how we go with the program here. Pastor Brian Broderson of Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa in Southern California is here, and we have a special guest joining us via Skype. We were going to get Dr. Fauci on the program today, but he's playing baseball right now with the Yankees. So we brought in Dr. Lou Wing, which is even better. Dr. Wing, welcome back to Pastor's Perspective.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
I didn't think we'd have you on anymore. I thought the last time we had him here, it looked like everything was going away.
Yep.
I thought we were going to have a vaccine, so it wouldn't have been a moot point.
Yeah. Lou, you look great. Your hair's kind of grown out, and you're looking.
This whole thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to work it.
The coronavirus hairdo, it's looking good on you though, and you got a little sun on your face. Looks like maybe you've been out on your bike riding around.
Kinda, yeah. It's been beautiful down here. I mean, San Diego. This has been the mildest summer thus far. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah. I was at a memorial service last night in Anaheim, and when the sun went down, it actually got cold.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, and I had a light jacket on, and I was next to my friend, and he had a short sleeve shirt, and I thought, man, he's cold because I'm cold. So, yeah. So, how you been? Good? Everything good?
I've been good. Yes, extremely busy. We've been working on, a variety of different projects, anywhere from vaccine therapeutics. All of the projects within my world get shifted over more so now in cancer than ever before. Interestingly, because of the COVID information and all those are in clinical studies. And so there seems to be a lot more interestingly, a lot more Chinese clients these days, and they're really wanting to do some more development here in the United States. So we've got some really interesting, international, and that's what's so amazing about this company is that the international issues. And so, lots of new things happening in the COVID world.
Yeah. So it has been a while since we've even seen each other, and it's been a while since we caught up on the COVID issue. And like Brian mentioned, there was that time when we thought, okay, we flattened the curve here in California, and we're coming out of lockdown, and we're going to go back to what, some sort of a normal. And things, I think have gone back to some more of a normal kind of a situation. But obviously the numbers of cases are higher than ever. So give us like the Lou Wing perspective on all things COVID-19.
Brian, yes, I think one of the greatest challenges is I've been answering that exact question in a number of different arenas these days. And, it is interesting coming from the drug development world and the societal as well as we're kind of looking at it from the virulent viruses and violence. That's kind of what our culture has been for the last 7 months. Virulent virus and violence. And, one of the greatest challenges that it's really difficult when you look at it just from a systemic perspective is that overwhelming connections of politics and science that have really merged a lot of these issues. And staying pure and true to the science has been a real challenge because a number of the issues seem to often be driven by that conclusion that's at the end of a given research paper, whether it be of Nature, whether it be of, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. I mean, these leading journals, give some extraordinary information, some of which is very recent on asymptomatics. And it always seems to have that sense of, we make this conclusion at the end of every paper. Journal is always what's called a discussion. And the discussion kind of reiterates all the results, conclusions, and then they have their own opinions. And so often people read the discussion more so than the actual paper itself, so they lose themselves in the data. And it happens a lot in epidemiology. It happens a lot in some of the basic sciences of virology, and so on. And that's because there's so many variables that are tied to, for example, the ACE2 receptor that's on, respiratory cells. And that's like the key target for coronavirus. And what's happening is this. Coronavirus is a cold virus. What does that mean? That means that the common cold has a number of coronaviruses. It has coronavirus. And if you look at the back of your Lysol bottle, you'll see it's protected against, and it gives you like 50 different viruses that Lysol is effective as a static form for. Coronavirus is one of them, meaning that your body has T memory cells. Now, that's just an immune statement saying that you have two different types of white blood cells that fight your immune system. And it's really important for the public to know this, just so that we're aware of the fact we talk about antibodies, we talk about protection. We have to remember that without going into a lot of immunology talk, my gut sense is that the cells that produce the antibodies are driven by memory cells. And those memory cells are cells that have seen this virus, seen a coronavirus before, and so you are already immune in many ways to this virus. There are certain antibodies, though, that are directed against this ACE2 receptor that are not produced in your bodies from other sorts of colds. However, a lot, if not a significant, like 70 to 80% antibodies we have from the common cold that are protective against coronavirus. Wow. Meaning that the sense of asymptomatic simply means that there's sort of like this general malaise, and I'm saying like light headaches, light sore throat, I'm just sort of like this, not feeling quite yourself, but you're fine. You can run a marathon probably, but you're feeling kind of, a little bit, not quite there. That is this pre-symptomatic place that there are numerous places where a number in the public actually have. And this is where we have this big dilemma of, are these people contagious? Are they infectious? Is that light, cough or, light sneeze, filled with respiratory droplets that could ultimately, be contagious? And this is the ultimate challenge, because there are those that are predisposed to this lock and key, this ACE2 receptor that is either abundant or it is non-existent in terms of content on the cells. Obese people that are in aged, vulnerable groups are those that have greater access to this ACE2 receptor. And this is why when we look at, yes, we have these antibodies, but it's this key mechanism that's really about how the number of infections are going to be lessened because we understand this mechanism, but greater as far as numbers of people that have a positive on this test. And the confounding factor is we're using this virus, I'm just going to give you another immunology term, the antigen. Now, you may have heard that word. That's being thrown out a lot. Antigen simply means the viral particle itself. And that the viral particle itself has little places all around it where an antibody can stick directly. So it's got all these what are called antigenic sites all around it. So you can get multiple types of antibodies that stick to it. And that one spike that is the key to unlock the ACE2 receptor is the area that we want to see the most antibodies directed against, because it will block the virus from entering in. And it's that way, that's why we want to see who are the symptomatics and who aren't. And we're in that really gray zone of those that have tons of great anti-coronavirus antibodies, but we're not sure about whether they have the anti-ACE2 antibody. So this is where we're at right now. And we're getting into more granularity as far as the basic science is concerned. And it will be reflected ultimately in the vaccine that's ultimately going to be treated. But we're not there yet.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. That
So
is...
it's a lot of immunology. Sorry,
Yeah.
but that's. But
No.
you know what's really fascinates me though, and let me just give you one more little piece on that, is that when you think about it, the skin diseases of Leviticus, and we've talked about this before, but I just want to bring it up because Mycobacterium leprae has the sister called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And they have found that these coinhabit, when they coinhabit in cultures from the 2000 BC all the way up to the present, when they coinhabit, they have very similar antibodies, meaning that there is protective mechanisms that we have learned already about two sister organisms. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing coronavirus as a sister called the common cold virus. And this one just happens to be a relative that has a very unique spike protein. So we can make all these analogies coming right out of the book of Leviticus. So I mean, this whole contagion is extraordinary as far as the molecular biology is concerned.
Yeah. And that's just, you know, on one level, it is just absolutely fascinating that these things exist and do what they do. And when you think of creation and you think of God's, you know, plan for everything, and then, you know, your ability as a scientist and others to actually observe it, to see what it's doing and to understand what it's doing, and then to try to, you know, figure out a process to have it do something else other than what it's doing. That is amazing. So, okay, that is so good, Lou. And so what is, like, let's just talk practically right now, because you know this as well as anybody. We've got a big divide right down, you know, the middle of the country. We've got the mask supporters and we've got the mask rejectors. And it's not just in the general culture, it's in the church too. So we've got, you know, we've got some churches that are basically just, you know, the CDC or the state or the health department comes out and says, hey, do this, don't do this. And you got some churches that are saying, okay, yeah, we're gonna go with that. And then you got other churches that are saying, oh, this is a conspiracy. There's really nothing to this coronavirus. Forget that. We got to worship God. We're going to pack into a building. Don't wear a mask unless you really want to. And we're going to sing our hearts out. And we're not afraid of anything. So help us, Dr. Lou Wing, who is also theologian Lou Wing. You got two prongs here.
You're packing so much right now, Brian. Let me just say that, first of all.
Yeah.
Second, let me just say that the mask, and I'm saying this, I can make a personal statement about this, and then I can make a societal statement, and then I can make, you know, the scientific community is still trying to understand, do we need it or we don't? Yeah. The goal of the mask is to understand, oh my gosh, how profound is Leviticus 15? I'm just putting it out there. The whole chapter on discharges, because it is all about the discharge. Yeah. And the mask is for the prevention of discharges, period. Yeah. Because you're not going to absorb them. The respiratory droplets that are present in the atmosphere are dense enough to be dispersed in the atmospheric. I mean, when you see somebody with a mask on, you know, and I try to be as, you know, correct, you know, I want to respect what they're doing, and a loving way to respect them is to not walk up and go, do you understand that the best thing for you right now is to take the mask off so you can actually breathe fresh air and get your lungs having a complete, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I believe that there's certain people that are going to hold to this almost as a statement of, you know, I'm doing my part. And, you know, fair enough, great. I applaud them for that because they're actually making a statement. It should not, though, deter those. So when we take them off, we have to recognize that this mask is meant to protect you. Because of the information about symptomatics versus asymptomatics, the best thing is in public spaces that are not indoors, that are indoors. Sorry, you wearing a mask is considerate, meaning that you're preventing any sort of respiratory droplets that could possibly come from you if you are potentially asymptomatic.
Right.
And you know what? Right. If you have very mild symptoms, occasionally like, I just think it's just a cold. Well, that just a cold is, you're absolutely right. And most likely it could be a coronavirus-like cold, meaning that by wearing it, you're preventing any sort of droplets in a controlled atmospheric region inside. However, outside, the respiratory droplets, because I was saying, that atmospheric, dilution that happens when it goes outside is going to be far less of a problem than what happens inside.
Right.
Okay, so that's like when you see somebody jogging with one on, I'm just praying that they don't asphyxiate, because, it's hard to breathe with those things on.
Well, I ran a few miles this morning, and every morning as I'm running, I'm seeing, 2 or 3 out of, 30 or 40 people, running along with their mask on. And I'm thinking, because I'm walking from the parking lot to the market with my mask on, and then I'm shopping with my mask on. And the minute I get in the parking lot after shopping, I'm ripping that thing off because I can't breathe with it. So I'm running along, and I'm looking at the guy running toward me with a full mask on, and I'm thinking, how is this guy even doing this?
Oh my God, so
you almost want to reach out and rip the mask off.
Just say, hey, bro, take that off and get some fresh air.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that, as a believer and as a witness, one of the greatest challenges is not to sort of assert that knowledge. So, and I almost want to do it since I'm going to say scientifically, I'm doing you a favor. Rip it out there.
You know what? But if I was Dr. Brian Broderson instead of Pastor, I would run up alongside of a guy and I would explain the science to him. I'd say, hey, listen, I just want to do you a favor right now. Take that mask off, because you're not helping yourself or anybody else. But the bigger question is, because I think I read a while back, a week ago or something, that the least likely place you're ever going to contract coronavirus is out in the fresh air. That's the least likely place you're going to get it.
Exactly.
I get the indoor space. I think that it makes sense in the indoor spaces that we should, out of common courtesy and for safety purposes, we should wear a mask. I don't have a problem with it in the indoor.
Right. And ultimately, by running it indoors and recognizing what it's doing and remembering what the whole purpose of a discharge is that it is loving to prevent that.